the boats at first, they stopped, they paused to wait to see what was going to happen. And when nothing happened, they continued. And they arrived in Gaza, and Donna, who's here, can tell you about what it was like to arrive in Gaza and see thousands upon thousands of Palestinians coming to the port to welcome them. Again, and there were Palestinians on board those ships. This was the first time ever that Palestinians could arrive in their own country, on their own land, without somebody else's approval. Because of course, before 1948 is the British occupation of Palestine. Before that is the Ottoman occupation of Palestine. This is the first time that Palestinians could arrive in their land without having to ask some other authority's permission to enter. And we have one of our fellow activist Palestinians who joined us, Mushir al-Farah, who is actually from Gaza, who joined us on that ship, who, for him, this was the most, he talks about it and wrote about this experience, how incredible it was to be able to do something that everybody else basically takes for granted. And such a simple thing can have such a powerful impact. So, with the first mission accomplished, Free Gaza set sail again. And each time that Free Gaza kept going, we kept trying to figure out how to make the mission bigger, how to escalate, because Free Gaza wasn't really drawing the attention of the international community. And so, although the goal of reaching Gaza had been achieved, the goal of raising awareness about the blockade and the siege and the impact on Palestinian lives, that wasn't happening as quickly. Some media outlets in Europe, some media outlets in the Middle East did pay attention. But especially here in the United States, there was almost complete silence about it. So we took to recruiting more and more people, more and more media to come on board. We had to get a bigger ship, and we kept trying to escalate, to escalate, to escalate. 5 missions reached Gaza unimpeded, up until December 2008. Then, at the end of December 2008, Operation Cast Lead was launched. 2 days later, we sent a ship. Cynthia McKinney was on board. Nobel Prize winner Mairead Maguire was on board from Ireland. And it set sail as the bombs were dropping on Gaza. The Israeli Navy met the ship out in international waters and rammed the ship. Luckily, on our ship, nobody was injured. But we had CNN on board. And so when that ship pulled into port in Lebanon, the CNN correspondent gave a live interview with the bureau back in Atlanta and talked about what happened. And this all of a sudden got some attention. Cynthia McKinney, of course, gave a live interview as well on CNN, and more newspapers and media outlets started paying attention. But this was during Operation Cast Lead, and of course, the tragedy and the devastation of Gaza that occurred during that time dominated the headlines, and rightfully so. And so the overall policy of siege and blockade was again an invisible story as the war stories took effect. After the fighting stopped, after the troops withdrew from Gaza and the devastation remained, Free Gaza tried to organize another mission, and we finally were able to do so in July 2009. And this time we decided to bring with us building supplies, because after Cast Lead, thousands upon thousands of homes were either destroyed or totally demolished, and no cement had been allowed in, no building materials had been allowed into Gaza to rebuild. Even though just about, we went in July, in May of that year in Sharm el-Sheikh, the international community came together, the United States was represented, most European countries were represented, many Arab countries were represented, pledged over $4 billion to rebuild Gaza. As of July 2009, as of July 2010, not a single penny of that money had materialized in Gaza for reconstruction. And for one reason only. The siege that Israel was placing on Gaza would not allow reconstruction, building materials into Gaza. The whole international community pledging all of this money, not one penny getting in. So we decided to carry on board our ship cement. It was a very small amount because our ship was fairly small. We could only bring about 28, 29 passengers. It was a ferry boat. and we could only carry a limited amount of cargo. So we put on what amounted to be basically symbolic materials. We never had any intention or dream that we could meet the need of Gaza. But we thought we could, by symbolically taking this material in, start to push open and crack open the door and challenge international organizations and challenge other states to do what we were doing. That ship, the Spirit of Humanity, was called in July 2009. I was on board. Our ship was boarded by Israeli soldiers. We were detained, and we were brought into port. And after about 10 days, we were expelled and sent back to our countries. The material, for the most part, did not enter. The medicine was brought in, but we had the cement on board. That was not allowed in. And we also had toys for children on board. Many children had been injured, had suffered severe trauma during Operation Cast Lead, and we were just bringing in toys, crayons. I mean, Cynthia McKinney brought in tons of crayons and coloring books to give to children. And all of that was denied entry into Gaza, because apparently that was considered a luxury item that Palestinian kids weren't allowed to have. After that mission, we reconvened ourselves and we thought, okay, we need to escalate again and we need to keep pushing, but this time it needs to be much more serious. We can't just go with one boat. So we thought that, okay, we need to try to get at least a cargo ship, and to escort the cargo ship we were hoping to have 2 passenger boats. But then in the fall of 2009, as we were trying to raise money and get our act together to get the ships, we started thinking more and more about it and realized that this really, 3 ships, although it's an increase, it really isn't a significant escalation in terms of our overall nonviolent strategy. We need to really push it further. In order to really meet what is the need of Gaza, what is the need of Palestinians in Gaza, we really needed to have something much more significant and much bigger in scope. So we started reaching out to some other organizations around the world to see what we could do. Already in Sweden, there was a campaign underway called Ship to Gaza Sweden. They had been active for about a year at that point and had raised about 100,000 euro, which really wasn't bad. But it wasn't yet enough to get a ship. And so we encouraged them to try to escalate their efforts in order to get more funds or to consider partnering with another country. And ultimately that's what they did. Another group called Ship to Gaza Greece was formed. They started raising funds in Greece, and ultimately we paired them together, and Greece and Sweden joined together to have one ship that they sent as part of our flotilla. We spoke to the European Campaign to End the Siege on Gaza, which is a group that's been around for a while, that has been sending delegations of European parliamentarians to Gaza, and to to Palestine in general, to meet with and to see the situation on the ground, to meet with Palestinian civil society leaders, to meet with average people, and especially in the wake of Operation Cast Lead, to do their own investigations alongside what was going on by what Richard Goldstone was doing. The European Union conducted their own investigations into what happened. So they had been active for a long time. They agreed and committed to getting a ship as well, and to organizing a delegation of parliamentarians to come as part of the flotilla. So now we had a couple of more ships, and then we were lucky. We got introduced to the Turkish organization IHH. Now, IHH is an international humanitarian organization working in over 100 countries around the world. It worked here in the United States after Katrina and provided humanitarian relief to many of the displaced Americans, people out in New Orleans who were forced out of their homes by the hurricane and subsequent flood. They had just recently, or just in the winter, been providing humanitarian aid and assistance to Haiti after the earthquake. So they work in not only Muslim countries where they do a lot of work, but they also work in non-Muslim countries, including here in the United States. So we thought this would be a good partner for us. And they initially committed to getting 1 cargo ship and 1 passenger ship. And they launched a campaign in Turkey to get more support to involve Turkish citizens from around the country. And the response was so overwhelming that they ended up calling us and saying, okay, we could actually get another ship. So they managed to get 2 cargo ships along with their 1 passenger ship. And then as we were coming closer and closer to what we thought would be the sail date, which was originally supposed to be in March 2010, a group in Algeria, civil society, organized and pledged to give enough money for yet another ship. And they wanted to do that with their Turkish friends. So they